Welcome to Cinematic Concept Design. My name is John Sweeney and I'm a concept artist and designer. I've worked in the video game industry for the past 5 years at Naughty Dog and had the privilege to work on films in my spare time. My experience in both industries has been exciting and a constant learning experience which I'd like to share with you. The goal of this course is to teach you my process for creating a cinematic concept image, starting with how I analyze films and taking you all the way through my 2D and 3D workflows. The first lessons focus on the theory and standards used in film, as well as how to stage and orchestrate a photo shoot with props and models in order to get exactly what you need for your image. From there, you'll learn all of the basic tools I use in my process, including Modo and Photoshop. If you're not familiar with Modo but are more comfortable in another 3D package, the same workflow concepts and theories should still apply. Whether you're new to concept art or want to see how I specifically solve problems and ideate for my work, the intention of this course is to help you better understand the fundamentals of film language and increase your overall efficiency and workflow when observing and composing imagery for your personal and professional work. Students who sign up for the Learn Squared or professional packages will have access to all of my bonus content, including layered project files, project photo shoots, and the ability to follow the journeys of my apprentices and the mentorship students as they learn from the same course content that you do. I'm so excited to see what you create and take away from the course, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in class.
All right. Yeah. Woo! Woo! We're live. How's everyone doing? Hope everyone is fine and well and prepared for this Saturday noon. It's actually Saturday noon exactly here in
right on time.
Los Angeles, California. We're live with a bunch of really cool guys. We have one and only almighty John Sweeney, who is actually the author and the guy who created the course. This amazing course we're presenting to you guys today.
Hey everybody.
John, how's it going, man?
It's good. How about you?
Pretty good. We also have who else we have here? We have Adam Littledale. Adam is the apprentice for John's course. How's Adam doing?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Awesome. And we have Andrew. We can skip that.
Yeah, no fanfare for me.
Yeah, so long awaited. We're actually releasing this course. We've been working on this for a while together, John, and I'm excited, man. You know I love your work. We've known each other for a really, really long time too. Yeah, it's an exciting one. Yeah, let's talk about you a little bit. Let's introduce your persona. Let's make sure that everyone who's joining the stream today, I'm pretty sure a lot of people that are joining today and are live, they know who you are, but you know, someone who stumbles upon the stream accidentally, you know, let's get them informed. Let's get them the reason to go into the website, which is in the lower thirds. You can actually see it down there, learnsquare.com/Sweeney. If you go to that link, you are able to purchase the course right now.
Awesome.
Mentorships. So yeah, John, how are you, man? Who are you? Who am I talking with?
I'm a concept artist. My name is John Sweeney. I'm a concept artist at Naughty Dog. I've been working there for about 6 years almost now. And I've been concepting on games like The Last of Us, the Left Behind DLC, Uncharted 4, and Last of Us 2, which I've been working on for the last couple of years actually. It's been fun. And yeah, we met on Last of Us 1. And since then I've kind of freelanced on films here and there. Some of them we did together, if you remember those, which I don't know if we can talk about yet, but some of them are still not out. And yeah, so I've just been mainly responsible for creating environment concepts, color scripts, lighting paintovers, things like that, at the studio. And in this course, you know, I'm hoping to kind of share some of the knowledge that I've gained while there and working freelance in the industry, you know, for the past 6 years, and try and give you some insight into my process and some tips and tricks and some tools that I like to use and utilize to not only make my work go a lot smoother and faster, but also to kind of get the quality up to the bar that has been expected.
Yeah. Yeah, John is one of those people that I've met. I've met you when I was coming back to Naughty Dog. That was the first time I met you, and I actually remember that very moment when you and I think it was you and Nick and eight. No, it was only you and Nick. There was no Eitan there. You guys were like walking through the corridor. I was like, who are those guys? Who are those bitches? I don't know. But yeah, and I saw you guys, and I don't think we even said hi to each other because like I kind of like recognized those faces. And then when we actually went for lunch, we actually started talking. That's when I met you, like back in 2012.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a while now. But yeah, I remember Shaddy sending me your early work when you were starting in the industry. I remember seeing that, and honestly, seeing what you did there and what you're doing now, it's like, fuck, like damn, Daniel. There's a reason why you're over at Naughty Dog, and there's a reason why you're making this course, man, because this course is awesome. But yeah, you know, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted.
Well, I mean, no, sorry, I just gonna say about that. Like, I definitely had, you know, I've had the opportunity to learn from a lot of really good people, yourself included, and I've been surrounded by a lot of, you know, amazing artists, and Adam as well, like sits right next to me, and he's doing 3D stuff, but kind of the environment there at the studio is so I don't know, I guess critical, or like there's so much constant improvement trying to go on.
Yeah,
so that's been something that I've really kind of appreciated, and seeing just like kind of the nature of how online courses and schools and you know, just different areas where people post their work and things like that, that kind of the level of quality and sort of what's now expected, and the rate at which people are getting better is really exciting, and it's pushing me to like do the same. So there's always new programs, new techniques, you know, that are out there. But I guess what I wanted to do with this course is give like kind of the bare bones of like, you know, what I actually use on a day to day, and also kind of create a course that goes back to kind of some of the foundation of what I think I've seen missing in other places. Not necessarily missing, but more my own take on it, I guess. So it's trying to break down things at like a bare level, and then building them back up to that finished quality. Because there's a lot of, you know, tutorials out there, like, you know, speed painting things where you're watching and it's like showing you just how to like get to the finish. But I wanted to kind of build up like, all right, well, what do you actually need to get there? Like, what do you need to be thinking about? How do you need to be analyzing these images and other things around you? Like when you see an image, whether it's a painting or a film or whatever, and you're drawn to it, like being able to then dissect why you're drawn to it and why it's successful is kind of what I was hoping this course would, you know, help people get a better language and ability to do.
Right, right. And if I can add anything to what you said, what I can add is, you know, knowing you for a while now and knowing what you've done and what you're working on right now and some of the projects that you're doing over at Naughty Dog. And for those who don't know, Naughty Dog is one of the greatest in the video games industry. You know, if you're not familiar with Uncharted series, you should try it. You should definitely try the Last of Us game. See what we're talking about. So you are basically, you know, you are a person that knows how this industry works, and you know what is the recipe for a concept artist to actually do the job really well when it comes to working in the video game studio. So for anyone who's wondering, like, what is, you know, why would I invest my money, or why would I invest my time into figuring out who John Sweeney is and what the work he's doing, how it relates to, well, yeah, I mean, you worked on the top projects, and that's the style you work with, and that's how you know, how you teach it. And yeah, it's a simple answer. You know it all, and you present it here, right?
Yeah, and the turnaround too, like at the company, and then like I'll have to create images like this within a day sometimes. So this process has really been kind of streamlined in hopes of getting quality fast, and getting a finish that the directors can look at and kind of sign off on, that then will hopefully carry through to the final product. And the really nice part of again the studio is that it's constantly evolving, and there's constant like sort of push for new techniques and new methods and everything, but there's still these core principles and foundational things that really are what that's built on. So trying to kind of touch upon that in the course is really what my goal was.
Yeah, one of the things that I think is very interesting when it comes to Naughty Dog specifically is because when I was there, and the most of the team is still there, it's especially a concept art group. It's a really cool group, right? It's a group of most amazing artists, and it's also a group of friends. And one of the cool parts about it is the experience of learning from one another. And
damn, son.
So the cool one of the cool things that kind of relates to what we're doing here with the course is it's your experiences, but also experiences that you've learned from others and applied into the creation of this course.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's definitely it's kind of all building on the last 5 or 6 years of working with you guys, working at the company, working on films, like having to learn different techniques and just finding out what works, like what's the most useful, what's the quickest way to get these things done. Like we don't have time to do weeks that take, or images that take like 2 weeks or something, or 3 weeks. Like sometimes you're awarded that luxury, but I'd say like 98% of the time you're basically just trying to get stuff finished because people are waiting on it to make it in 3D. Like Adam will be working on stuff and creating the level, and he'll need a concept, or he'll request a concept or something, and we need to be on it, otherwise it doesn't get to them in time, and then our purpose at the company kind of I guess isn't that important at that point. If you can't deliver the necessary product, then it's kind of, what's the point?
Yeah, let's actually talk about the course itself, because we're slowly leaning into that direction. So the course is available right now. So if you go into learnsquared.com/Sweeney, you'll be able to purchase the course. One of the questions that is appearing here, and by the way, guys, like keep asking questions. Andrew is here with us, and he's collecting all of the questions. He'll be reading them towards the end. We'll do a QA session towards the end of the stream, so you guys can get all of your questions answered and all of your concerns answered before you even commit to anything. But yeah, let's talk about the course. One of the questions was asked, how many professional or mentorship seats you're gonna have there?
I believe it's 10.
Okay. Yeah, there were 10 originally, but there are actually only 4 left right now, so they're going pretty quick.
Oh shit!
Yeah, they're going pretty quick. Quick. Money. Joking. I just can't help myself and be me. Anyway, so guys, so let's talk about the course. Let's talk about what you've created here. What was your goal? What was your idea behind the course, and why people should pay attention to it?
So yeah, again, like it's just about breaking down sort of the fundamentals of, I guess I'll go through lesson by lesson. That'll be the best way to do it, I guess. Overall, the course is aimed at creating a cinematic image, or a concept image that could inform either a cutscene or a moment in a story, as well as using techniques that I would use for all my environment paintings and concepts throughout the project. But in the first lesson, it's really focused on breaking down and analyzing films, and finding out, one, what makes them look like films, why are they successful images, why are they memorable, what elements are at play that that make them read the way they do, or say certain directors have certain looks or certain films have certain aesthetics or styles, and looking at those and trying to figure out, like, all right, what is it that makes them that way, and breaking those images down to kind of core graphic principles or shapes that can then be, translated into a shape language moving forward in the process. The second lesson kind of focuses more on actual gathering of reference and assets that you'll need to complete and get a final quality to the image. So I focus on, creating, I guess, a photo shoot and reference shoots that will give me, high quality pieces of the puzzle in making that final image. I do some ideation breakdown, some thumbnail sketching, just to kind of quickly ideate different compositions and framing of using those shapes from lesson 1 that we broke down from the film stills. And then in lesson 3, we focus really on the construction of like a set. So finding set inspiration, location scouting, things like that, and then building that in 3D so we can get the camera angle and sort of the shape language in our frame that we want. And then lesson 4 is really just about the application of all those things and kind of tying it all together, doing some Photoshop tricks, just getting everything feeling cohesive, and then ultimately pulling back that film still that you were referencing in lesson 1 and trying to kind of fine tune the image to kind of match and fit within the same quality and aesthetic of that.
That's a pretty straightforward process. And by the way, that was something that I was thinking about creating myself, this kind of course. But then John, like, you came up with the idea of like, let's make the course about this specifically. You started, feeding some of your content to us, and as we were developing the class, I figured out, like, fuck, I cannot do the course like this anymore because you're better. This is so much. This is so much cohesive and so much well designed that what I would be thinking about doing myself. So yeah, that was definitely my first impression when we were developing the course together, and trying to figure out the structure and recording and everything like that. I was like, damn, like this is looking pretty good, and it's really, really cool. I'm gonna ask you a question. I'm pretty sure this question is going to be asked a couple times along the stream, and I'll probably have to repeat it towards the end. That's fine. But one of the ideas behind the course, and it's even in the title, it's called cinematic concept design. I was wondering. I'm pretty sure a lot of people would be wondering. I already know the answer, obviously, but if you would translate that, how this would apply to video games specifically, because in film you can pretty quickly answer it by saying, cinematic concept would be basically a keyframe for a film,
right?
Or sort of like a keyframe illustration, which you do quite a lot when you work in the film industry. But how does this apply to video games, in your opinion?
Well, just based on kind of my experience at work every day, on Last of Us and the other Naughty Dog games, is that games, not just at Naughty Dog but in general, are kind of becoming more cinematic and like bridging that gap between film and sort of the game entertainment. So I do images like this constantly at work. If there's a cutscene in the game, this applies to those. If there's even an environment for the game might have a specific story moment tied to it, or there needs to be an emotion or some sort of framing of like, how are we going to reveal this building or this this set piece in the game, and that all requires like cinematic framing, because the goal is to ultimately create a cinematic experience. So like using these same principles at play, not only for these sort of keyframe images that will work for the cutscenes and things, but also in the environment concepts as well. The
Right.
same concept of using the shape language and the graphic principles and framing and all that stuff. It's all really it's comprehensive. Like, it's all related, I guess. So I hope, does that answer?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. And you know, we will elaborate a little bit on that. You talked about, you know, framing and composition. It
Hmm.
obviously applies to if you're specifically thinking about the keyframes, right? So that's pretty
Yeah.
straightforward. But I feel like it applies also to your overall knowledge of composition and
Sure.
just design principles. So, which lesson was in which you're actually breaking it down? If you could inform us again.
For the lesson one content.
I think no, when we're talking about, you know, looking at films and breaking down into, you know, those specific you know, how the frames look like and why the cameras
Yeah.
have specific angle and what is the shape language and design and all that. It was lesson one or
Right.
two?
That's lesson one. So
Okay.
that's the first thing that we kind of get into, and it's really just what I consider the foundation of the course and kind of my outlook on creating images.
Right.
Um, and the more I've kind of, I'd say, I guess since starting, I didn't used to think about concept images in this way. I didn't used to think about them as like graphic design
Mm-hmm.
principles. And it was actually another, I think it was one of Ash's courses that he did sort of like some really graphic breakdowns of his keyframes, and I thought, all right, like I want to like now observe films this way. And so as I started to look at more films and start to break them down, I realized like, oh, I could use these same graphic design principles to then translate and create new compositions and new, concept images or keyframes, just as like a toolkit. So you're basically dissecting a film still and then creating, yeah, a toolkit out of uh, those shapes or those, that design language, um, and trying to then translate it into something else or
Yeah.
something new.
Yeah. And one of the things that I would dare to add, and I hope you agree with me, is as soon as you go into a realm of composition and breaking down what you see into shapes, your brain automatically starts to think about the design and the choices that you're after. And I think that one of the things that I was really impressed when we were working on this course, and when you were you know, creating the stuff for this course, was like, damn, you have everything thought out really well. And there's certain things that we as professional artists think when we work, is we already sort of have an experience with proper framing, composition, some of the design choices and whatnot, um,
Hmm.
and all of that stuff. But rarely ever you actually find you know, answers to those questions, because it's like it's very easy to assume, all right, let's do it, let's paint something cool. But then as a novice or someone who's maybe not so well versed with the composition, you might be asking like, but I cannot design that way. Like, I can maybe
Hmm.
learn how to draw and learn how to render it really really perfectly. Um, but it's difficult to actually understand the sort of the foundation and principles behind that.
Yeah.
And that's, I
I
guess that's one of the reasons why you've added there, and it's like so well explained, right?
Well, thanks. Yeah, I guess in my experience of like not only like watching certain tutorials, but even like the old Gumroad tutorials that I've made and things like that, I realize like those all kind of focus more on technique. They don't really focus as
Right.
much on like what's going on in my head, and making this course kind of forced me to, um, yeah, I guess break down my thought process or my internal kind of process more, and trying to illustrate that was fun and challenging, but I think like the result I'm pretty happy with, because now I can kind of more clearly talk about like what it is that I'm trying to do. Like when I pitch an image, or when I pitch a concept or something like that, or I make something, I can talk about it way easier too, like to someone who's just looking at it. Like if it's not, I mean, the idea would be that a lot of this stuff just is apparent, but some people looking at it might not have this. this vocabulary or language to speak about it, but
Right.
they know it works, and then I can say like, all right, this is working because, there's a break in these repetitive shapes, or there's like, a shape contrast here that's bringing more focus, or things like that that films do, images have been doing, but being conscious of it, not only when you're making the image, but also when you're talking about your images, is also another really important thing, on the job that I find myself doing a lot. So um, it helps to have this sort of these principles or these ideas in your arsenal when uh, what's the word, collaborating with other people, because then you can kind of
Yeah.
make your case, or better illustrate sometimes through words, how it's working and why it's working, and what would be a good fit for this type of thing. So
Yeah,
um,
and also when you think about it, when you compare, because you could ask a question, how does this then relate to concept art versus illustration? And I think the quick
mhm,
answer is just by the virtue of knowing composition, you can sell the concept art much better for a person that might not necessarily be visually well versed.
yeah.
It's one thing to sort of like sell the idea to art director who exactly know what you're doing, and
Mhm,
he will focus more on the design. And by the way, like knowing the composition principles apply to the design as well, because those pretty much share some of the same tropes. Um,
mhm,
but you oftentimes, when you work in video games, you are going to work with level designers. You're going to work with animators. You're going to work with writers. You're going to work with people who are not specialists in art. And knowing how to frame your images and sort of compose your images is beneficial, wouldn't you say, John Sweeney?
yeah, but I think even more important than just the images in some cases is it's creating that language, so like people
Yeah.
can learn about it, because like I know that's been something that we've been doing at Naughty Dog for the past like 3 or 4 years. We've been like conversing more with the different departments and trying to kind of get or find a common language for everyone to use and start thinking about early on. So, by the time level artists get, say, the block mesh, or the concept artist has to do a paint over of a block mesh area, the shape design's already there. It's already been talked about. It's already been established. Um, and I think that's just really important, just for kind of creating better product, better
Yeah.
atmosphere. It gets people excited about what they're making, and makes them think more about things outside maybe their either comfort zone or just specific area of expertise. And it's kind of cool to kind of see how people solve these problems, and come up with unique solutions that even sometimes I might not have thought of. So it's been really great, kind of using these methods and whatnot to create images.
Yeah, one of the things you can tell by looking at Naughty Dog games, they're pretty darn cinematic. um, so it definitely applies. It might be a different experience if you want to learn how to design characters, right? Because that's not what this course is about, and you cannot
Right.
cover
Yeah.
everything in one course. But this specifically, I would say, the way you work specifically is a very, very, very efficient. And what I like about this course, just from experience of reviewing it and working on it and helping to sort of produce it, um, because obviously you created all the content. Let's just put it out there. I only looked at it and, and had Andrew deal with everything else. Uh, let's be honest here. Um,
Thanks, Jay.
um, but one of the things that I always admired about your way of working is that you by working with, you work with me, you work with Eitan, Zana, you work with Aaron Lemonic, Nick Jindra, and all of those people over at Naughty Dog, but also in some of the other projects that you worked on, film projects that there are some film projects we worked on together as well.
Mhm.
One of the things I've noticed that you are picking up really fast is picking the most efficient ways different tropes and sort of applying it to your own workflow. And one of the things that I always admired about your work is you were always able to create things that look beautiful really fast, without overthinking a lot of things that people tend to overthink, even including myself, where I'm trying to figure out what is the best way and what is the best approach to get the right results. And sometimes it's very easy to get stuck on that sort of like production element, where you found some of the areas where you can cut the time and the results are still mind-blowing and awesome. And one of those things are the photo shoots. And I was like, always, one of the funny parts about the photo shoots is that I've experienced them, firsthand over at Naughty Dog, because for those who are tuning in and listening, a lot of art that we've been doing over at Naughty Dog was done exactly this way, or just like would be someone from the company posing and then becoming a character on the screen almost, right?
Yeah, even, I mean, everything from, so I did this for my test at Naughty Dog. When I got the test to do the image or whatever, they give you like, I think, a month to do it. And I contacted my friend Lily to do a photo shoot, to kind of pose as Ellie, because they needed like a post-apocalyptic image. And I probably took like 300 photos of just different because I didn't know specifically what I was gonna do yet for the image or what the framing was gonna be, but I knew like, all right, I wanted, Ellie like standing, in a doorway with light coming in or something like that. And so I took all these pictures of her with like backpack on, baseball bat, like any kind of combination of weapons, like a gun, like all this stuff. And then when I got into Photoshop, I just kind of like found the one that felt the best, put that in there, and I think that ultimately got me the job, that image. So I think, yeah, I mean, it's something I've been using for like my entire kind of concept career, I guess. And now I'm like, with doing more kind of cinematic keyframe images and things like that, I'll be doing a photo shoot like sometimes 2 to 3 times a week, depending on the kind of volume of images that I have to create, or like the deadlines that we have. So this has kind of been, in a way, like 5 years, like in the making of like this process kind of getting streamlined and figured out, like, of how to get there the quickest and most efficient way.
Yeah, and you do it pretty well. I remember, I mean,
Thanks, man.
with so many, goofy situations, I'm working like really focused on something, and I look over, and like I see Nick in some really strange poses. I was like, what the hell is going on?
I needed him. I needed him, like, I can't actually say what I needed for. I'll give away something. But yeah, it was an image, and he had to like pose in a funny way just to like get. It was totally unrelated to like what the image was. Like the image was very serious, but the pose it was funny. We always laugh about it. And you see
goofy.
I don't know if anyone guessed who the model was in this lesson yet, but
someone might have
Andrew
guessed. Someone might have guessed. That's an interesting question. Who's the model? Who's the model of that? In that image.
Yeah.
Let's see if people guess it right. I've seen some guesses, and I'm not gonna say if it's right or not.
One thing to know, I saw a question a little while ago. I don't know if I'm allowed to just answer
No,
a
you're
question
not.
I see.
No, go ahead.
But they asked like if this was like a more sci-fi image or something that wasn't, grounded in reality, like how would I handle a photo shoot for that? And I guess it would really depend on, I guess, how sci-fi or how out there the image is. Like obviously if you want to do like an alien character or something like that, I would recommend ZBrush or 3D Coat or, some combination of 3D programs to achieve the actual character. But I mean, a lot of the time, if I'm doing something sci-fi or fantasy, I'll do a DAZ 3D model with like some Marvelous Designer clothes over it. And that's going to be bonus content. So that's kind of a separate little
Damn, Daniel.
snippet that I'd like to add on later, but I wanted to focus more on kind of just the foundation principles in this first 4 lessons. And then the bonus content would focus, or one of the bonus content images would really just focus on like my DAZ and Marvelous Designer workflow.
Nice.
Because those two things, I'm not like so versed in those programs that I could make a whole course about them, but I could definitely make a video that just shows you the streamlined process that I use that I found works. And then kind of even doing some photo shoots and stuff over that work, or specifically to composite over the DAZ figures and things like that.
Yeah.
But that's going to be like probably a 40-minute video or something. It's not a crazy process, and it's not a huge amount of time. And DAZ and Marvelous are both, I think, really easy to kind of enter. They're very like in depth, or at least Marvelous is. It can get really crazy, but the way I use it is pretty straightforward. And I don't get too crazy. I don't get too crazy with it, because I find with 3D you kind of have to either go like less than 50% and finish it, or like 90%. Otherwise, you're kind of stuck in this weird middle ground where you're like
Limbo.
undo. Yeah, you get stuck in that limbo phase.
Yeah, there's something about 3D when it comes to concept design. Is unless you know it really well, you're gonna have that moment where you're excited and you're using sort of like the basis of it, and it really helps. But then like you want to add more and more and make it more exciting, and then you get stuck because like, oh man, like I'm sort of like almost there and looks cool on thumbnail. Like on the thumbnail it looks really realistic, but when I zoom in, like, oh fuck, I still have to rely on the painting and photos and all of that stuff to get it to the right detail. And then once you pass that threshold of quality, then you can use it directly in your paintings. But that's like a completely different workflow at that point. You're showing the first part of that workflow, however, right? Like how to use 3D applications to sort of like build the foundation and make some of the shortcuts to make your work easier, so you're not overthinking a lot of foundation that you would normally have to build, right?
Yeah, so I did like sort of a block mesh, or like art block mesh in 3D, and then to get all like the marble details and murals, rather than doing that in 3D or putting that in into shader work or like anything like that, I focus on trying to get that finish in Photoshop. I find that's quicker for me. But we can talk to Adam a little bit, because in his image he focused more on the 3D side of things, because that's his background.
Yeah.
So there's
we'll do that in a moment.
Yeah,
we have Adam patiently waiting here for his turn. Yeah, we're gonna talk with Adam, who's your apprentice, and we'll introduce Adam in a second. I just want to go through all the lesson stuff so that we can answer some of the questions, and obviously a lot of other questions going to be answered in QA, but there's important topics to cover before we move on. I sort of like to keep it structured.
Let me butt in really quick and just say that mentorships are sold out, but we created a form, like a waitlist form that I posted in the chat. I'll send it again now. But if you want to get added to a waitlist, just let John know that you want him to open more seats. I will post it in the chat for you.
I'm really looking forward to the class. I'm really looking forward to seeing like how people pick up the information and what they make, because I think it's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
Lots of fun stuff.
Someone asked sort of roll back a little bit to the photo shoot aspect. Someone asked, I think it was David, who asked if he needs a camera to do a photo shoot.
You need some kind of camera. You don't need a $10,000 one or anything like that. You could use an iPhone. Like the newer iPhones have amazing cameras. You could use a simple point and click.
How good they are?
Yeah, I actually, like, someone was telling me the price tag on those. They are like $1,000, but I'm like, yeah, but the camera's actually really nice. Like, I wouldn't have to lug around my DSLR or whatever. I wouldn't have the same, I guess, lens
selection,
variation. That would kind of suck, but at least just for like base reference stuff. I mean, most of the time when I'm taking like asset reference or like reference that I'm going to photo bash, I just use like 18 to 35 millimeters, so it's probably fine to use the iPhone one. So yeah, you need some camera, but it like any camera will do really. Like whether it's a point and click or rather a point and shoot, DSLR, iPhone camera. Um, if you want to borrow someone's camera, if you can borrow someone's iPhone, that's fine too. And if you don't have a camera, then we can focus on finding. You can still find figures online a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Um, which I do a lot. So for example, if you're doing like a fantasy or a period piece painting, like you could look at LARPing photos or live reenactment photos and find something that might at least help you get through the course and kind of use the principles at play. But I think um, I would recommend having some kind of camera just because part of the lesson in lesson two is not only like getting the reference, but also getting you familiar with camera lenses and framing and whatnot at that stage, because that's really important to like always be thinking about the composition and always be thinking about, how you're going to be using these images, but also like in doing a photo shoot with, especially with a model, is kind of its own thing. Like it's a whole thing to get used to. It's something that you have to kind of, um, you have to be interacting with someone. You're directing the poses, trying to figure out what's natural, what feels right. You want to make them comfortable. There's a lot involved there, so it's not just taking pictures of somebody. It's kind of like building a relationship and trying to get them
Yeah.
um, to produce what you need them to for the image.
I guess what I really enjoyed, and I've mentioned this in earlier on, is the way you approach it specifically. Because a lot of times, and I do it myself very often, is I would just rely on if I want to make my shortcuts and do the things that need to be done quickly, I would rely on using photo references and photo research. But what I really enjoyed looking at how you do it and how it's actually presented in your class is that you're actually putting up an effort to get a model and then get it done really quick and really on the budget without breaking the bank or anything like that. You can actually do it for free if you're smart. You could do it for free too. Ask friends, get your if you have a camera, get your camera. If not, use your camera phone or phone camera. Sorry, camera phone. What the hell?
Camera phone works.
Yeah. Works.
I,
And then go that route. But even if you don't have a camera, and that's really important what you've mentioned. Like you can still do it because you might not have the same flexibility, right? You're not going to direct the model, but you'll still find enough information out there that if you can sort of go around and build upon and do the derivative of it. So there are definitely options. You're not limited, and that's what I like about this class specifically, because it's just like it shows you the way, but it also gives you hints and ideas of other options that are available. So
yeah, the internet's huge, so
it's big.
I don't doubt that you'll find find something to use. And like again, you don't even have to use a photo. Like if you want to do say your work's more stylized, or you want to do something more like not photo real, like that's fine.
Wow.
The same principles apply, the same shape language, same breakdown, all that stuff is still going to apply to like an animated image. So if you're more of like a painter, then you can still do that, and you actually are probably going to have even more control, or the same amount of control that you would if you were doing a photo shoot. I'd recommend, like, unless you're 100% like a stylized artist, to use the methods that I'm using in the class, like the photo shoot and all of that, and the 3D. But down the line, maybe we'll think about doing some bonus content that's more geared towards doing a painting from scratch without any photo or something like that, just to demonstrate that.
Sorry for that, guys. Yeah, and one of the things that I also want to add here is, apart from, again, like we're talking about techniques now, which is, whether you use a camera or not, whether you use 3D or not, there might be an artist who is really freaking awesome with creating really realistic assets in 3D. nothing stopping you from doing that. What is really cool about this course is, although you're showing your own way of working and you're showing what kind of techniques you're using, you're also explaining why. And that's the big factor of it. You're actually going behind the scenes and explain why you're doing specific choices for framing, for what's going to be in the concept, why you're making those selections. So I think that's really important to be mentioned, because a lot of times it's very easy to get stuck on the technicalities, right? But what really matters is the foundation and the reasons why you're making specific technical choices too. Yeah. All right, dude. Let's talk about the homework then. Like, one of the things that I think the audience would like to know, pre-purchase, obviously, if someone would be interested, like, hey, what would be expected of me if I would decide to take the course, but what kind of homework I should be doing? Like, what is going to be my end result at the end of the course?
Yeah. So all I'm asking for the course is one cinematic concept image by the end, because I really want you to kind of focus on the process and like getting each stage, getting comfortable with each stage of that process. So like lesson 1, for example, you create a mood board looking at a film that you like and dissecting 3 frames from that film and breaking those down. So that's not a ton, but it's really important at that. Like that's a really important stage because you're actually figuring out what the shape language is that you're going to be using for the rest of the course. Lesson 2 then focuses on doing some thumbnailing based on those shapes and a photo shoot that applies to the same shape language. Lesson 3 is then doing some set design reference searching and building out kind of a simple block mesh in 3D and rendering that out with the lighting and everything. And then lesson 4 is compositing in your photo shoot elements based on the sketch and shape language from your thumbnail that you've decided on, and then kind of dealing with most of the Photoshop tips and tricks of like how to get materials reading in there and like photo bashing texture details and lighting, things like that on top of it. So as I'd say probably the most demanding, or not even most demanding, but like most time consuming part of the course is going to be probably like the photo shoot and the 3D part, because lesson 1's a lot of kind of just foundation stuff. Lesson 4 is really you have all the pieces, so it should be at that stage pretty quick to get it to come together. Like the whole point is to be able to like have you making images like this in a day, like if you needed it. If you had a photo shoot of like a bunch of stuff done and you needed to make like say 5 or 6 images, like a sequence of things happening, and you have the right poses and everything, and you have a scene built out, then you can frame any way you want, light it any way you want, and just kind of drag and drop different elements that then create these cinematic images.
Cool. Let's actually bring Adam to the picture here. Adam,
Yeah.
how are you, man?
Good.
I'm just showing people your work that you've done. Can you tell us if you've ever done concept art before?
Not really. Like I've done my own kind of, images, but I've never done, I can think of concepts for like a project or anything.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the result of what you've created. I'm like, damn, dude, it's looking freaking awesome. So, yeah, I mean, Adam is a testament why you should take this course. Really, really looking at that is I'm damn impressed, because it's not only just like how it's done, but it's also the framing and everything. It just shows. Yeah, let's introduce who Adam is. Adam, can you talk about a little bit about yourself and who you are and all of that?
Yeah. My name is Adam Littledale. I work at Naughty Dog with John. I'm an environment artist there, environment modeler. So I model assets and kind of do world building, build out levels, basically.
Yeah,
He's really good.
Yeah, But of course, sir.
No, but
Of
like,
course.
but yeah, no, he's like all the levels that I've seen him work on. I'm like, no, it doesn't even don't need a paint over. It's good.
Thanks. No, it's cool because like I'll get the concept artist there will make a bunch of awesome images, and then it's kind of like we get to kind of like take that in and then just have to like build an entire level based on those images. So I've always been a really big fan of concept art there, and I feel like I've learned a lot from looking at all the images
Yeah.
over the years.
Yeah, I've seen you work, and the funny thing is when you work in video games, and we've been talking about this a couple of times on different streams and different occasions. I think even when you were on one of my streams, John, we've been talking about how much of the actual concept art that you see online, how much of it it never ends up, or it's like how little of a percentage it is of your actual work.
Yeah.
Versus working with the level artist or environment artist and doing overpaints and helping them to get your artistic designer eye, your knowledge about illustration, composition, all of those things into the actual level creation and assets creation, right? Yeah, with Adam you have a really good understanding of that, and it obviously helps, but we all know like how different it is to be, if when I'm looking at your work, Adam, I'm looking at your designs for, like, right now I have Uncharted 3 open, some of the renders that you have from that game. All of it looks awesome, and honest to God, like, I think it would take me forever to do it myself, right? And also do it in a way that it actually works in the game. So it's not like 1 or half frame per second.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
there's a lot more involved in.
It's more technical than it looks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Just to render an image, you could do it, but make it work on 60 FPS or 30 FPS or whatever is required for PlayStation, on the limitations and making sure that all the LODs are there. It's just like, fuck. I don't think I could do it. So, yeah. So let's talk about the homework. Let's talk about that stuff. So Adam, you were apprentice for John's class, and I want to ask you about the experience. Like, whether you enjoyed or not the whole process, and what do you think about it in general?
I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm a big fan of concept art, John's work, and all the work I see at Naughty Dog. And I've always wanted to know like kind of what goes into that and the process. And what I liked about this course like John mentioned, it's not all about techniques. It's like just kind of like where to begin or where to even start with planning. So kind of like gives you a process to like, work out a composition and then kind of like focus on that to like see it through to the end. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, so in lesson 1, you guys worked on the mood board, right? You basically looked at some of your favorite films. I guess, you've picked up my favorite too, which is Blade Runner, obviously. And then you worked on breaking it down. So that was pretty awesome. And it's one of those things of when you do a film studies, I think you learn a lot about the composition. Could you guys elaborate a little bit on that? Like, how is this whole process? How important this whole process is in that lesson?
Do you want Adam to talk about it or me?
Both of you.
Okay. I guess I like
briefly.
Yeah, for me this process is really important because it will educate you on why an image that you like why you like it, like why is it working. So, for example, a lot of these are all backlit. They're all, silhouetted characters, or mostly silhouetted characters with backlighting. There's atmosphere at play in each one of the images. There's like vertical shapes. And in some cases, like the left image, looking at a lot more of the other frames, there's a lot of like circular kind of shape design in Blade Runner kind of throughout. So once you kind of can pinpoint those things, then you like kind of know already, like, okay, if I want to make a Blade Runner-esque style image, I'm going to need atmosphere. I'm going to need some backlighting. I'm going to need, you know, some strong verticals and like, you know, a monochromatic, somewhat color palette. Like all those things are kind of what are, you know, apparent in these images, and that's what's going to then help you move forward and kind of do that. So it's really like, yeah, I guess that's why it's lesson one, is it's kind of the foundation of like what's going to set you up of making everything. It's going to determine your photo shoot. It's going to determine your set design. It's going to determine your composition, like all that. So I don't know, Adam, if you have any like what you personally got out of it, or if you got anything different out of it, or.
No, I agree with all those points, and it's just kind of like, for me, it was like just doing studies, kind of, you know, they're really quick, and you can kind of build up, you know, the language of that film. You get an idea of it when you're actually doing the process. Like, it's one thing to just watch it, but when you actually look at a frame and kind of are involved with it a bit, it kind of sinks in more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's you actually start paying attention to at that point. But the funny thing is, like, I think from now on in a lot of films, Adam, when you're gonna watch them, it's like, how to break that frame into pieces. It kind of kills the magic of the film sometimes. Honestly, a little bit. But then that makes you understand what's good about them too, right?
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it. I think on some levels, like that's kind of a hazard of the job. Like you do end up, I guess, killing the magic is the way to put it. But like you end up appreciating things way more when they're done really nice. Like you see a nice shot in a film after kind of being able to break things down and analyze it, you're like, wow, that was like exquisite, or that was like really well made. And it's necessary.
Yeah, that's true. What I like about your homework, and you know, it kind of shows how well thought out the course is, and you know how it flows, is that, you know, when I'm looking at it, Adam, you did like really cool breakdowns of the mood board, where you did the studies of the shapes and whatnot. Back to sketches, where you would sketch out something, you know, your frames and the ideas behind what you want to show with just shapes, and then to the photo shoot, finding, you know, interesting assets and photos that you're gonna use. Actually, what camera you used for this? Did you use like an iPhone or something?
I used
your DSLR.
No, I have like just like some Sony. I don't even know what it is. Just like a basic digital camera.
Yeah, you don't need anything crazy. I mean, I'm a perfectionist, so I would probably go and like freaking rent like studio quality stuff.
I can confirm that.
Which, you know, by the end of the day is like, why did I do that? Yeah, you don't need to have the professional grade, you know, you can just take. I'm actually noticing that I'm using my iPhone more for photos, and I'm more reluctant to take my camera anywhere with me, because it's like you have to carry it additionally, whereas phone, you have it with yourself all the times, and pretty much most, if not all, of the phones these days have camera, and like really good one. So using that is pretty simple. But obviously, if you want to be really more elaborate and set up lightings and all of that stuff, that's a different story. But what I like about the process is like it shows you, you know, like a really good solid preparation. Then Adam, you did like a really cool block out, and then, you know, found like merged everything together. I was wondering, Adam, how difficult was it for you to actually go through the process and from start to finish?
Um, it wasn't very difficult. It was just, learning process. I want to do some more
Mhm.
frames and use and rely more on photos for the next one. This one, I kind of fell back into the pitfalls of 3D where it's like you can keep going forever, and I kind of want to, and I still wanted to do like kind of try to for a graphic image, but I kind of wanted for the next one simplify even more and just,
Yeah,
try that.
relying on your strengths. I know that. I know that feeling. Yeah, it's very easy to sort of like fall into that realm of like, I already do that really well. Let's use that. But yeah, obviously, I mean, when you learn, it takes time. But I honestly, looking at the final image, I'm impressed, man. It looks really awesome. It's like a really good frame. It could easily be used as this is. I mean, this works for games and film. Like this is a quality of work that if you show it to a production designer, they would buy it. Like
Mhm.
they wouldn't be like, oh, could you improve here and there? Maybe on the very specific art directional stuff, but the beauty of the whole process is that you control everything here. So, yeah, super cool, man.
Thanks.
The results are awesome. Um,
Yeah, I'm
very cool.
super proud of it. Yeah, it looks amazing. You
Yeah,
should be
let's.
doing concepts.
Yeah, man. Switch
Uh,
jobs, man. Do concepts.
Working on it.
Let's get everyone to do concepts and no one to build level designs anymore. All right, guys. I think we've covered most of it, if not all, in this stream. There's a, I bet you there's a shitload of questions that we should get into right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. You guys did
Do it.
address a lot of the questions or the recurring ones as they came up, but it's fine to reiterate too because a lot of
Yeah.
people have been waiting just till the end for the Q&A stuff.
Okay.
The first one was what programs will I need and how long does the course take?
Okay. So the course is 4 weeks. But obviously, if you're not doing the mentorship, it's at your own pace, so you can go through the 4 lessons at whatever speed you want. Um, as far as programs, you really just need Photoshop and a 3D program. It could be SketchUp for all I care. But I would recommend something like Moto or Cinema 4D or 3ds Max, something that has like a decent uh, lighting or directional sunlight or artificial lighting rig. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I like Moto just because it's what I've been using. It's by no means like the best or the only 3D program, but I just find for what I use it for, how I use it, it's quick. The render is, you know, pretty real time, pretty quick just to get a preview of what I'm getting. And I've more recently been using like the Octane plugin, which will be later on in some of the bonus content of how to like just bare bones use some Octane stuff. Um, but yeah, it's really just those and a camera and a pen and a pencil.
Yeah, and you go through explaining how you build in Moto. So if you are
Yeah,
not familiar with Moto and you want to try it, you can go ahead and use this course to actually build in Moto for those lessons, and you're not going to be left without like, oh, how do I build
yeah.
that? Yeah, it's all explained in this course.
That
But
that was another thing. Oh, real quick, that was another thing I wanted to do is because I found a lot of the time when I, was starting out, especially with the Moto and 3D programs, is like you end up scouring the internet for like, you know, little tutorials and things on how to do one little specific thing, and a lot of them are general tutorials. They go through like every menu option and everything before you just get to the thing. Like I just need to know how to do this one
yeah,
thing.
that one
So I
thing that I
wanted,
need.
yeah. And so like I just wanted to create kind of like aside from the actual 3D lesson, there's like a quick tutorial chapter on like all the basic tools in Moto that I use and that you'll need to like do everything not only for this course but to like, make concepts and stuff. It's not
Awesome.
crazy, it's not getting into like any of the kind of tertiary uh, things in Moto that would be considered, or I would consider more specialized aspects of the program. But it's like if you need to create a block mesh, do some materials, light it, all the tools you'll need to do basic modeling and rendering and things like that was
Yeah.
something I wanted to include as well.
Sweet.
Very
So another one that came up, I think you guys addressed this one a little bit, but so you do photo shoots if you need keyframes for normal real world kind of project, but what if there's a fantasy or sci-fi project? How will this course help tackle those subjects? And
so yeah, I guess I sort of touched on that earlier, but I think the same principles apply no matter what genre or type of image you're going to be making, whether it's sci-fi, fantasy, realistic, animated. It's all using the same foundation principles that are touched upon in lesson 1 and whatnot. But as far as creation goes, like depending on how sci-fi the image is, like I was saying, if it was like a robot you were trying to put in an image, that's something I would use more of like a 3D program like ZBrush, 3D Coat, or DAZ, to create the framing, because you're not going to find necessarily a photo of a robot that you want to design on the internet. It's going to have to be either a combination of photo bashing or just go ahead and model it, which I'll do. I'll probably end up I guess that was actually going to be a question I posed to some of the mentorship students and students later on, is like, for the bonus content, like what genre or what type of image you'd actually want to see me create. I'm guessing there will be a lot of Last of Us requests, but I probably can't do a Last of Us image because I'm currently working on The Last of Us. So I can do something with lots of foliage in it, but I assume like, a sci-fi one or something that's more geared towards the 3D is probably, maybe I'll combine some kind of robot 3D thing with.
It'd be cool if you did one for from Alex Vigini's course, used his robot.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I could.
Abandoned post-apocalyptic zombie robot.
There you go.
Exactly.
So yeah, something
derivative
like,
enough.
Yeah, I think it's just there's a ton of tools at your disposal to make any kind of image that you want nowadays, and I'll do my best to get everything covered in terms of how to get there. But I think really, like, even if you buy this course and you don't actually make an image and you just like watch the first couple lessons or the first all the foundational stuff, and you don't even get into the Photoshop stuff, I still feel like you're gonna come out of the course with something. And my hope is that anyway, is that you could watch any one lesson and learn something kind of independently from the whole process.
Yeah.
Another question that, as we're talking about bonus content, we're getting more questions about it, like ETAs, which I said coming soon, maybe a couple months. You're still working on it. The other one is, would the content be commentated over like live, or would it be time lapses? Or
I probably would, since I didn't record audio live while doing the I guess the one bonus image of the guy with the shotgun in the blue room. That would probably be time-lapsed. The other bonus content that would focus more on like the DAZ Marvelous Workflow, that would probably be at normal speed with commentary live.
Yeah, I think a keyword is keyword here is bonus content.
Yeah.
Which means you're adding it because you wanted to add like some extra stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there will be commentary. We don't want to release it just like some.
You're not just going to get a
silent
video without audio. Yeah.
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 That doesn't help anybody.
Okay, another person asked ETA, and it's a couple months. We're still figuring it out and trying to set deadlines and figure out what works with John's schedule. But just if you're a part of the course, you'll definitely know when it comes out, and we'll be sharing it on social media and all that. So just stay tuned for it. Another one.
I'm just gonna add, the intention of the bonus content is that it's a bonus content, basically something that some of the instructors will add if they have time and want to add something that they feel is relevant to make the course even better than it is. But just for the experience itself of the course itself, everything is already there. Like it's not like a video game. Some of the video game studio DLCs where You cannot complete a video game without the DLC. No, it's nothing like that. You can complete the course without any of that content. It's like a icing on the cake. Or like you've had your main meal, you've already had a dessert, and your friend is telling you, let's go for a boba, that kind of stuff. So,
well, and my understanding is that the bonus content is just added in. It's not at an extra cost or anything like that too.
Yeah.
So it's just it'll just appear, and if you have the course already, you won't have to buy anything new. It'll just be there. So, and hopefully later on, if anyone doesn't get the course now, it'll be incentive for them to get it later.
Yep. So this one came up a couple times, but just how does cinematic concept art relate to video games? How does it translate across industries, and not even necessarily just video games, just cinematic? How does the cinematic image in general sell something that's not a movie?
Well, I think for me, cinematic images are more compelling because it's a formula, or it's a format rather that we're kind of used to digesting and used to seeing. Like, everyone watches movies for the most part, and they've been around for a long time. So cinematic images, or images using those principles or composition ideas, are, I think, just right off the bat going to be not only more digestible, but just relatable and recognizable. And as far as how they relate to games, as games are improving, they're getting more and more cinematic. Whether or not the style is realistic or, a cartoony type of thing or stylized, like it's still using the same foundation ideas of like framing, composition, lighting, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the
definitely
question.
I think for sure it does. You had mentioned in the intro to the trailer that you also work on movies outside of your work at Naughty Dog. How do these opportunities find you, and how do you balance that with a full-time job?
I'd say a lot of the time I'm either contacted out of the blue, and I don't actually know where they've necessarily seen my work, or if someone recommended. I know early on a lot of the film projects I actually got through Mache and Aton, where they would get on a film project, and then the production designer, I think, would be like, do you know any friends, or is anyone else available? And they would recommend us. And I'm assuming a lot of the other films that I got just out of the blue were probably recommended from other peers that I work with in the industry, or they've just seen my work somewhere and have contacted me out of the blue. But I don't actually generally ask like how they found my work. I just kind of start work. But yeah, it's been fun. Film is a very different pace than games. Although I find that the more cinematic games get, the pace is kind of catching up. So it's getting a little more fast-paced.
Wow.
At work, making games. And then for film, I mean, the turnaround sometimes for some stuff for film has been, like maybe I'll get a week to do an image, or maybe I'll have to do 7 images in 1 week. It's really kind of random, I guess. And a lot of the time too, I'll sign on for 1 image and I'll do it in like a day or 2, and then they'll be like, oh crap, we actually need, like, since you got this one done so quick, we need like 4 more. Can you do these 4 more by Friday or whatever, or by Saturday? Yeah, I guess, it's just kind of a unique opportunity that I can do when I come home after hours, just start working on something that's completely different, or challenging in like different ways. A lot of the time films have made me, push me to improve my workflow because of the time frame that I have to create them in, or the types of things I'm creating. It's like, okay, this is actually better if I just use completely 3D. If I don't use any Photoshop for this particular image, I'm just going to do a 3D render and like spend time in 3D. Other ones, I'm like, I'm just going to completely photo bash this. I don't have time for 3D. So the process varies. A lot of the time when I'm at work though, like at Naughty Dog, I have a very strict process that I have the time to kind of use every time. But yeah, the photo shoots really have been more and more prominent in that workflow.
Mm. And on that subject of photo shoots, somebody was asking, is this usually for personal work, or like how long does it usually take, since it seems like it would take a fair amount of time during a job?
So when I need something for a job, like I'll, you know, the director will come to me and be like, okay, we need, some keyframe images for this cutscene or something. And then I'll kind of rack my brain, or they'll have suggestions as to who around the studio like resembles or sort of looks like any given character or build. And I'll just go grab them. We'll do like 30 minutes, take a bunch of shots. Sometimes I'll have like just like one light or something to kind of move around to simulate a lighting direction or a key light. And then I just take those back to my desk and throw them on the drive. There's probably thousands of photos of people around work just posing in different ways and doing different things. And we'll even do photo reference shoots just for lighting, and like effects and things like that, like they're pretty fun as well. But yeah, anything and everything that I think I can photograph and will save me time and look better, it's worth whatever time it takes. And we're not doing like a full-blown, like it's not like an 80s style photo shoot with like big diffusers and in a white room or anything like that. Like you saw the photos here of I think we can say who it is now, right?
Yeah, the big reveal.
Yeah,
The big reveal.
Eitan in this room here. So this was actually done when I was making the course. I asked him one day at work, like, hey, can you run in this room and just like do some photos with me real quick? And so that's actually the side room at Naughty Dog that we just kind of use for the photo shoots. Yeah. What'd you say?
Allegedly. Joking.
Yeah.
So maybe we could get a couple more questions in.
Yeah.
So one was, would somebody who can't draw be able to follow this course?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Adam did.
I think Adam does some sketching and stuff, but I think really the amount of drawing used is really just for those thumbnails. And if you look at those thumbnails, like they're really rough and they're really just using basic shapes to represent the elements in the image. So I don't require any real drawing or sketching sort of for the course. It's really focused on 3D photo workflows.
Sweet. Somebody's asking about that image of the robot with like all the veins.
Oh yeah.
Down and stuff. Was that photo based or was that all 3D, or was it from the bodies exhibit?
No, it was I built out with Daz 3D and Moto the figure and the chair and the arm that's putting the mask on, and the big kind of circular or cylindrical things that are closing in on him, all in Moto. And then things like the dripping and some of the fire and details of the chair and details of the cylindrical element were photo added on top of the 3D. But I have not actually seen the bodies exhibit. I really want to. I don't know if it's still going on, but I've always wanted to see that.
It's pretty rad. I saw it a while back, but it's kind of scary actually. Somebody asked, what movies do you recommend to study? And I know there's a couple in the course specifically, but I guess beyond what's in the course, what would you recommend?
Yeah, let me pull up that Google Doc, because I had a bunch of directors and cinematographers that I recommended for the course. Let me look at this real quick if I can find it. I think for me it's really
I guess what interests you is what's important. Like if you really like sci-fi, then you should look at the sci-fi movies that really inspire you and try and and try and use those as references. But I provided a bunch. Like I really like Roger Deakins' work. He did films like Sicario, Road to Perdition, uh, Prisoners, and then I'm a huge fan of Emmanuel Lubezki's work, who did like The Revenant, Children of Men, Tree of Life. I really like Nicholas Winding Refn's films, and Natasha Breyer did Neon Demon. She also did the movie The Rover, if you've ever seen that. It's like an A24 film with Guy Pearce. It's really pretty. Um, uh, so yeah, I think like I think I gave like a list of director photographies that are worth looking into, and kind of listed some of the films that they've done over their careers.
Yeah.
And they're very different, like from one movie to the next. Like, some of them will do like, for example, like The Rover and Neon Demon are pretty visually different, but they're both the same director of photography, Natasha Breyer. And Emmanuel Lubezki and Deakins both have kind of like their looks that they use in every film, and I think that's kind of why um, they're used so much, is because they're awesome. But one of the interesting things is I found out that Eyes Wide Shut actually had the same uh, director of photography that Only God Forgives and Bronson did, which I thought was interesting. But it makes sense because they're both like really kind of limited palettes and stark, imagery with like just clean images and lighting. So
Yeah.
it's just interesting to find out kind of like sometimes you might see a film that you're like, oh, I love Blade Runner, but like, do you know who the director of photography is, or do you know who actually like was responsible for framing those shots? Obviously, the director had a lot to do with it too, but there is a role that specifically handles these things in film. So finding those people and then looking at not just the film you like of theirs, but their other films is also interesting to kind of get some inspiration from, because sometimes they will have to have solved a problem that might have been out of their comfort zone at some point. They might be more known for their sci-fi movie that they worked on, but maybe they did like a drama that focuses more on like intimate setups with two characters and like just cool lighting or something. So it's cool to kind of it's cool to explore that as well and look through those and get inspiration.
Cool.
Sweet.
Did I like
Sweet.
completely go off the rails? I don't remember what
No.
No, no, that was good.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find another question. I know we've gone over this just through going over Adam's homework, but what's the, I guess, final deliverable for the class? Like, what can students expect to have in their portfolio at the end of this?
So I'm only requiring one finished cinematic concept image, and I would recommend just for the course, like at least if you're in the mentorship, like just focus on one. I don't, you're not going to impress me by doing like 10 images or something. I don't care about quantity. I only care about quality. So if you can get one image that's like amazing, looks awesome, and does everything that we want to do, and we can clearly see the shape, language at play, and sort of the composition elements that translate from the film stills that you've referenced and things like that, I'll be happy. You'll be happy. You'll have a cool image, and then you can go on and create a bunch more after the course. But I think, yeah, I didn't want to throw a bunch of busy work or work that was going to take away from really where I think the focus should be, because I didn't want people stressing about, oh, I need to make 10 images, where it's like, no, you just need to understand enough to make one good one. And then that will be enough of a learning experience to then go, you'll learn enough there to then when you make your next image, it'll go quicker. You'll have more ideas, like to kind of branch out from maybe the comfort zones that you're used to residing in. So, I think just one really stellar image is all I'm requiring, and really all that I'm requesting that you do. I'm actually going to tell the mentorship students don't make more than one image.
Yeah.
It'll
There
be
you
really
go.
annoying if a bunch of people make like 5, mediocre images when they could have made one really stellar one. Because that's really what matters. Like even on the job, like no one, at least at Naughty Dog, like they don't want to see uh, like a bunch of images that don't answer the question or raise more questions than answers. Um, they really want to see like that one stellar image that's gonna inspire multiple departments from effects to design,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess
I
one thing
guess
to be added is obviously as you go through the course, you will have a series of homeworks which we already discussed, and if you go on a website, you can find the homework assignments over at where the homeworks are, the lessons are. So yeah, it's the final image, but also as you go along the course, there's also going to be
oh, that's right.
different
Yeah.
assignments. Yeah, yeah. Just wanted to clarify
Right, right.
clarify.
yeah. I guess we have time for one more question.
Yeah, let's do it. And wrap it
Anna
up.
Pros asks, is there space in the film industry for concept designers to work outside of sci-fi, fantasy, and action? Maybe more dramatic films like Atonement or Skyfall and similar films like that.
So I definitely think those movies had, I guess, concept work at some point, but a lot of those films, what they I imagine end up using is going to be like matte paintings, things like that. Atonement specifically, like the beach scene where he's walking along and there's like all the soldiers. I think it was actually, I don't know if it was Dunkirk in that movie or not, if it was the same battle. It probably wasn't, but he's walking along and there's like a bunch of people there and like smoke on the beach and everything. That was like a matte painting, I think, with some sets. So that's where concept or our industry would kind of affect a film like that. Um, Most movies or most projects that require concept are going to be the sci-fi or fantasy ones, the ones that are going to, like, I guess,
More of
require
them.
more, yeah, more concepts, more design, where more
I
is
can
made
chip
up,
in on
more
that
is,
too, from my
yeah.
my perspective and my experience. I mean, I've been working in the movie a little longer now. Uh, yeah, definitely, it's easier to get a job, or it's gonna be easier to find jobs that are more sci-fi and fantasy related. But specifically for just concept design of like of a sort where you're just creating more of like dramatic, realistic, not necessarily anything fantasy. Those films are out there, and they do have art departments, and they do work with concept artists as well. And in that
Yeah.
case, actually, this course is perfect because that's exactly what you're gonna be doing. You're not gonna be designing um, new robots and shit. You will be designing the shots, and you will be designing the look, the lighting, the feel, and this is a perfect course for it.
Yeah, also, I mean, I didn't want the focus of this course also to be like designing characters or anything. One, that's not my specialty.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Two, it's also, I think it's kind of a separate discipline as well, so it's better suited to like take, say, like Alex's course on the ZBrush guy, because he's going to focus on everything you need to know to create, a character design or something, which then could, merge these two classes to kind of make an image. But I think, um, what was I going to say about so films that require concept or ones that, might not, like, that's one reason I really like working at Naughty Dog and in games, is because I feel like games, no matter what they are, require a ton of concept. It could be a game like, um, if you look at a game like Firewatch, or look at a game like what's another game that doesn't have robots and shooting and aliens and stuff. Like even Last of Us. Like there's no sci-fi. There's no real robots or anything like that. I mean, there are the infected characters and things like that, but those are handled by the character concept team. The environments and like the story moments of the game are really what excite me, because it allows me to do work like this for the game. I get to do these sort of like story-based, cinematic framed images.
Yeah.
And even the environment concepts are like trying to get across a mood or like some kind of story moment. So I think games definitely have more projects, and I don't know if you can speak to this, Mitch, but I feel like games have more like
Variety.
variety
For
in terms
sure.
of the types of things you're going to work on,
Yeah,
whereas
yeah,
films,
definitely.
yeah, films are the big blockbusters. They're the big explosions and design things that you're going
Superheroes
to be.
everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
These days,
Uh,
superheroes everywhere.
oh yeah.
Cool.
Um,
All right,
Sweet. I
guys.
think that covers it.
Yeah, it covers the most, if not all of the questions. If you have more questions and some of them weren't answered, you can always reach out to us. Andrew, can you explain how you guys can reach out to us?
Yeah, if you guys want to hit us up on social media, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Learn Squared. It's the same across the board. You could also email us at support@learnsquared.com. We just a note on this course specifically, since the mentorships did sell out, we set up a little waiting list functionality for you guys. You can find that on Twitter and Facebook. The link to it I posted in the chat. It's just learnsquared.com/Sweeney_waitlist. I just posted it again. If you guys want to hit that up, add your email to the list, and find out when we're gonna open up the next mentorships, if and when John feels like doing it.
I definitely hope to continue, getting new students and stuff. I feel like it's gonna be fun to kind of have 4 weeks with some students, seeing what they make, and if there's demand for it, I'll do it. So.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I guess just a link to the course one last time, because threw that waitlist out instead of the
learnsquared.com/Sweeney. You'll be there. Course is available right now. If you want to buy it, you can buy it now. If you mentorship we already discussed is already sold out. Everything else, you just take it at your own time. You don't have to start now. A year from now, you can still take the course. So it doesn't really matter when you decide to take it. You can do it as at your own pace. The only time requirement is for mentorship students, because it's gonna be reviewed weekly by the teacher. So cool, guys. So let's wrap it up here. I'm excited. This is a really cool course. I hope we've answered most of your concerns and questions in regards to what this thing is. I want to give a special thanks for John and Adam and Andrew for being on the stream. So
thanks for having us.
Thank you.
you guys.
And to everyone who decided to be with us live, thanks guys for being here, and thanks for everyone who subscribed in the meantime, because I was getting freaking spam here almost. But yeah, thanks a lot, guys, and we will see you soon.
Yeah, see you in class. Yeah.
See you in class. Bye-bye.